Okay, so today we're doing another video. Today we'll be talking about climbing the corporate ladder, which is a pretty cool subject that I thought about after doing my last video, which talked about military pay and benefits. So the I think the concept of a corporate ladder is important because in the military you have a very well defined and outlined corporate ladder in the form of your rank and pay structure, which also alternates between your enlisted and officer routes, right? And generally speaking, in the military, not only is it public information how much each rank is paid, but it's also public information how to get to each rank accordingly. Like it's not that hard to find out what are the requirements to get to, the most important ranks, which are probably, in my opinion, E1, E4, O1, O1E, right? I would say, generally speaking, every other rank is tied to those ranks. E1 being important for it being the first enlisted rank and just the easiest rank to get into. E4 for being the first rank as an NCO and being the first real step in a leadership if you're going the enlisted route. O1 for being the first officer rank, and O1E for being the Mustang rank, where it's like, hey, you've done a little bit of both, right? Now let me just see if I can find my notes. Aha, boom, there we go. Okay, and now another reason why I wanted to talk about this subject is because as an insurance agent, 90% of insurance businesses have corporate ladders, but the corporate ladder in an insurance business is usually slightly less defined, as it comes in two forms. The insurance business is always structured the same way in the military, where it's going to have ranks and pay structure. The only real difference is, rather than it being the same in every company, it's going to be different depending upon the company you go into. And obviously, instead of it just being a E1 or E2 or E3 and a fixed salary, it's a rank and a contract level, right? So the first rank is going to be trainee. This is also known as a recruit. So this is basically a 30% contract, which means that the person doing the work gets 30% of the commission of the deal, right? So this is a very straightforward contract. It's assuming that the person has no prior experience, whereas the 30% is a good amount because they're effectively doing the most of the work, but they didn't establish any of the systems that are required to run the business, right? And the other 70% goes to the business. And I think a lot of times what gets people caught up is they want to make all the money. They're just greedy, right? And that 30% contract level is important because, again, it just allows you to focus just on the work and not the stuff that you need to set up the work, right? Like, the idea is that if a person is getting a lower contract level, they're also not having to facilitate a lot of the stuff like the office space, transportation, things of that nature, right? So after trainee, the 30% contract of the trainee is closer to like the rank we call E0, which is someone who's in the military but hasn't completed boot camp, right? And they say that because the rank is yes, you've gotten started, but you've not hit the official first rank. You have not earned the title. Being a Marine, we called recruit E0. He wears them because he is nothing. It's the same exact thing with a trainee, where your only real goal is to focus on the job. And in the insurance business, that is literally just personal production, so selling insurance contracts, organizational production, so creating an organization that sells contracts, and the volume of those contracts, which is basically to state how many new clients can you get, how many new agents can you get, and what is the size of all the contracts. One thing I've learned about corporate ladders and why they're so important because one thing I've learned about corporate ladders and why they're so important is that the average company doesn't make money off of individuals. The average company makes a very small amount on an individual customer or agent, but they make money by having so many customers and agents that it just adds up over time. And it's important to understand because if you want to make a lot of money, you essentially have to do so by employing a lot of people. Like there's no way around it, and getting a small percentage of the people you employ, right? And some people don't like this. They're like, oh, I want to be, big baller, make all the money. And it's always the people who say they make the most money who don't make any money. Because at the end of the day, it's very different between having a business that makes money, having assets that make money, and you personally making money, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're making money, it's important to understand that the money has to be used for something productive. When I got into the insurance business, I didn't understand the difference between a office space and a home space, right? Because I really suffered because I wasn't able to just set up the difference. I wasn't able to establish the difference between, okay, right, what am I using for business and what am I using personally? Eventually I realized that I don't take anything personally, right? And every single thing that I have is business, and it just made my life so much easier because it's like, that's just me. Like it was easier for me to go, you know what? Then every time I have a business, start a business, every single thing. So like all the clothes that I wear are just uniforms for work. All of the possessions I own are just props for videos, and it's all of the electronics are just to facilitate, the marketing, advertising of my business, So it was just a shift in my mindset that helped. That was just based upon, okay, me understanding what do I have to do to get promoted and focusing on doing those things, right? Now, the thing about it is that just looking at the corporate ladder of the insurance business, I would say the insurance business is probably way, way, way harder than the military, because in the military, we're gonna talk about like what you have to do to get promoted, right? And in the insurance business, we have to sign contracts, and in order to get contracts signed, you essentially have to have a list of prospects. And the idea is that if you want to sign a few contracts, you have to have a lot of prospects. So if you want to sign 10 contracts, you basically need 100 to 200 people to sell to, right? And this has historically been the exact same. When I first got in the business, I used to go door to door, and I realized that, hey, if I knock on 200 doors, right, that's 200 prospects, I can sell 1 or 2 customers. And as I got better, I realized that, okay, rather than me sitting here and knocking on a bunch of doors, I'm just gonna go to events. So I'm just gonna go to an event, meet people, and then funnel people to another event. And essentially that's gonna be the way I sell, because it's just easier to say, okay, if I host an event here and there's 20 people, that's 20 prospects. And it's easy to do that over and over and over and over again, because it has the social benefit of bringing people together, which is the important part of the insurance business.